Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Figured it would be cool to talk about the incidents and things that I've learned in each and every single year of my lock journey. I am 7 years locked at the moment, and I figured obviously that I would start with my first year, so from starter locks up into my first lock anniversary. So I'm going to start right away. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background about how I got into locks. The first time I thought about getting locks, I was about 11 or 12, but at the time I was not allowed to get locks, so I figured I would wait until I was older. And then I ended up relaxing my hair, doing the big chop, having natural loose hair for a bit. It wasn't until I was about 4 years natural that I thought about having locks randomly, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that. I'm ready for that. And at the time I had all these plans about traveling and living my best life in summer 2011. I ended up traveling like once at the end of summer, and my plan was to come back from that trip and to start my locks. So what ended up happening was that trip was the carnival at Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, and a lot of people, of course this was New York, so a lot of people had locks, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to have locks also. So I ended up starting my locks the day before we went back home, and I started from the back, I finished in the front, and then the next day I woke up, we were leaving, and I was like, this is not it. So I took them out and started over from the back while we were heading home. I got home, my locks were done, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that is not it. So I started over this time. I really sat down and I really did my parts because I wanted to start them myself. I wanted the front to be a certain way because the density in the front of my hair is a little bit lower than the back. So I knew that the front had to be a little bit thicker, and the back, I really did not care about the parting, how it was going to be. So I started from the front, finished in the back, and then I was like, okay, I got the locks that I wanted. I'm also showing you the products that I used. The first two sets I used the Jane Carter product. The second set I used the Carol's Daughter product. And honestly, the Carol's Daughter product had some beeswax in it, so that's why at the time I liked it, because it had a little bit of hold. But if I could have gone back, I would have just used the Jane Carter one because it was much better in my opinion. Of course, my hair shrunk right away. I did not like the way that it looked, so I would tie it up or style it in some type of way most of the time. And my plan was to retwist only, and then after 3-4 weeks I decided to retwist, and of course it didn't last long, and that's when I was like, oh, that's why people interlock. And I started to incorporate interlocking in my lock journey during the first or second month. My hair started to shrink and frizz up slowly but surely. The first incident that happened was when I went to Brooklyn to get my hair done by this stylist that used Jamaican mango and lime. It has a wax in it, and it created a lot of buildup, which I was not aware of at the time. When I came back home, I used another product to style it a different way, and when it was time to wash my hair, the product literally just stayed in my hair. I had to do like 10 shampoos to try to get it out, and I said try because after 10 shampoos the product was still in my hair. What ended up taking it out was actually baking soda and apple cider vinegar. After that, I started playing with my hair with like wet sets, so I would, you know, do bantu knots and roller sets and etc. Next incident that happened was when I had these really too large locks at the top of my head, and it really wasn't that deep. And the reason why they were so large is because the top of my head is where my hair is the most frizziest, and it's more curly than the rest of my hair, so of course it frizzed up the most. And I ended up combing them out and making them into 3 locks, which was really not necessary looking back. During the first year, I really enjoyed my wet sets. And then another incident happened where I went to Harlem this time to get my hair done. I just wanted a regular retwist, and the stylist was going in about how thick my locks were and how I had made a huge mistake and I should start over. because once my hair was going to get long, they were going to be super heavy. She had micro locks, and she said, your locks should be as thin as mine. It doesn't make sense that your locks are so thick. And I was just looking at her like, okay, like, it's not that deep. If you like micro locks, that's cool. I like my locks to be thicker. Like, I don't get why it's such a problem. She ended up retwisting my hair, and at the end she was like, oh, you need a trim. So, you know, at the time I didn't really know much about locks, so I was like, okay, sure. So she trimmed my hair, and then I realized that she did not know how to cut hair, because she told her assistant that she had taken a cutting class for the first time like a month ago, and that it was really nice. And I cut hair for a living, so I was like, oh no. So I ended up having to fix it. I ended up with a mullet. So unfortunately I had to grow out my hair and then fix it later on. I think a little bit before my 1-year lock anniversary, I ended up coloring the bangs a little bit. One thing I forgot to mention was that before I started my locks, I colored my bangs, but I didn't take into account that I was twisting my hair. And usually, you know, color when your hair is twisted doesn't look as bright. So I ended up brightening up the colored area a little bit. I think I had to use bleach. And then I went to Florida, so that made my hair much lighter. September 6th, 2012 arrived, and I was a year locked. My hair was not completely locked. By the time I was 1 year locked, it actually took a little longer. But if you want to know more about that, then stay tuned for my 2nd year with locks. Thanks for watching, and talk to you soon.